15 years, blowing the doors off the competition. Podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRNetworks.com.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
Connecting to server. Connection confirmed. Connecting to website. Connection confirmed. Adjusting lights to preset level. Adjusting sound. Adjusting volume. Recording.
Real movies for real people. T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema 2021.
Are dark times ahead? Are things getting too out of hand? Are we getting to like the future by going to the past?
I think the answer to some of those questions would be, don't you mean darker times?
Oh, well.
Don't you think we've lost even more control? And to quote the Doors, the end is here.
I was thinking more of 1984.
There's that, too.
Yeah. Welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number 657, day and date, July 18th, 2021. Mm-hmm. And we are talking about something that needs to be spoken about in our show called Is the Congress Ready to Convene? Yep. Question mark. Mm-hmm. You'll understand what that means at the end of the show.
Yeah. Now, we try to have fun on our show here.
Well, we'll have fun with this. We always do, because it's ridiculous.
Unless it's a very serious subject, we do tend to both be a little bit irreverent and be kind of, honk, honk, wacky noises, kind of fun stuff. But this is not fun. This is getting beyond creepy and gone straight into disturbing.
Now, what is she talking about? She's talking about the deep fake controversy. Mm-hmm. This weekend right here, movie opened in limited release that has now become the biggest grossing documentary since the pandemic started. Movie called Roadrunner, a film about Anthony Bourdain, directed by Morgan Neville, the Academy Award-winning director of 20 Feet from Stardom and Won't You Be My Neighbor. The controversy is arising because Neville used a clip of Bourdain that he never said. Mm-hmm. He wrote it, but he never spoke it. Using an AI model that was created of Bourdain's voice to supplement the quotes in the film that there were no recordings of.
Right.
And he said, quipped later on, if you watch the film, you probably won't know what the other lines are that were spoken by the AI, and you're not going to know. We can have a documentary ethics panel about it later.
No, we should have a documentary ethics panel about it now.
For one thing, I really like Neville's work in the past, but I'm not watching this film because of that. I'm not going to be, patronizing his future films, because he obviously doesn't have any ethics. He didn't talk to Bourdain's girlfriend at the time of his suicide, Aja Argentino, at all. He didn't speak with his widow, or his ex-wife, who said he said his ex-wife, that his ex-wife was okay with it, and she came out and said he most certainly was not okay with it. Mm-hmm. He never asked me. So there's all kinds about this. How far are we getting into this? And this is happening with music, it's happening with movies, it's happening with television, it's happening everywhere. And it's been going on off and on. Started with just a little bit of a voiceover stuff, and then there was the digital manipulation of words on some movies and TV shows to get people to look like they're saying what they're not actually saying. And it all started in a lot of ways with probably going back to the late 80s, early 90s with the Diet Coke commercials with Paula Abdul and Elton John.
Yeah. It started when they, like you mentioned, it's the first place I can think of this happening other than, I mean, the movie industry has had to use tricks and other things when things have happened during films. An example would be the film The Crow.
Yeah.
During the filming of The Crow, Brandon Lee was accidentally killed on set because of things went wrong with the prop. The film was not finished, and for shots where they had like long shots of him, they used computer imagery and things like that, or they used footage that wasn't intended to be in the film, and they used it for later things like that. So it's not, and I mean, you could even go back if you wanted to, talking about a terrible example of it, you could go back to Plan 9 from Outer Space, the Ed Wood classic, Dr. Evil quotes, where star Bela Lugosi had passed away before the film even was finished, and they decided to cast a body double, Dr. Evil quotes again, as Bela's character. Never mind that the man who was supposed to be Bela's old man was a full head taller,
and
had
much
a head
younger.
full of darker hair, and obviously not Bela Lugosi. No Ed. Putting the guy's cape in front of his face didn't fool anybody.
No.
So when things like that were done out of necessity, you can kind of go, okay, well that's a little bit, but we can understand why it happened. This stuff, for the most part, is done simply to make money.
Well, let's get into the technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's done with video creation software and AI software.
Mm-hmm.
And the most famous example of it, of recent years, was the use of Peter Cushing's likeness as Grand Moff Tarkin, I never could say that name, in Star Wars Rogue One, a Star Wars film. I mean, people were just mind blown by this. And it wasn't a bad usage. I mean, I think Cushing would have approved of the character. I mean, he was always that way. But they did the same at the end of the film by de-aging Carrie Fisher back to her Star Wars 77 look.
I mean, the thing is, Rogue One took place during the Star Wars saga, right before what happens in A New Hope.
Which makes sense for those, but Peter Cushing had been gone for close to 10 years at that point.
Longer, I think.
Carrie, I'm not sure if she was still alive at that time or if she just recently passed at that time.
I think she had recently passed.
And of course, Carrie's filmed a bunch of stuff that was used in the later films after she passed, but those were not computer generated. Those were actually her. So that's one thing, and nothing, that doesn't bother me. You got that happening. You have people that film stuff that pass away, and you're going to use what they can to make sure that they get into that, because Carrie was such an important part of the saga. They didn't want to leave her out of the second two of the latest trilogy. So,
but you have to say that when we saw Rogue One in the theater, you heard the whole theater gasp.
The huge gasp
when people saw Peter Cushing's character again, because it was like, what the hell? I mean, one of the first times I can remember
it wasn't a de-aging thing.
No.
Or it wasn't a face replacement thing like went on in The Social Network with Armie Hammer and Josh Pence.
Right.
It was a full-on animated model.
Right.
Somebody was there with the dots on their face, and they used Cushing's likeness.
He's a gentleman that looks a great deal like Peter Cushing, but not exactly. But to do the one thing that I can think of, that the first time I ever remember this being a big deal where they used it with computers, was in X-Men: The Last Stand.
Yeah. Where
they didn't use body doubles or anything like that. They had Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen playing Professor X and Magneto respectively. But it was earlier on in the saga, and they just used the they used computers to take away lines and aging and stuff like that. I thought it looked good. I remember thinking, well, that's kind of, odd. But I didn't think that, oh man, this is going to lead to something completely bat guano insane, which is where we are now.
Right. And it's not just happening in the movies.
No.
It's being used in television commercials, in promotions, and in obviously in just voiceover stuff.
Right.
Now, interestingly enough, if you've seen the film Life Itself, the movie about Roger Ebert, you'll hear what sounds like Roger Ebert doing the voiceovers, even though he had not been speaking for 4 years at that point,
right.
And he had not, actually been. He was passed away before the movie came out.
When he was alive for a while, he
was involved with it while he was still alive.
He was using one of those robo, things where they type out words and then a robot voice speaks for them.
They did not use an AI for this. They used a voice imitator, which to me is fine as long as you have the permission of the people involved. And Chaz Ebert, Roger's widow, gave them permission to do it.
And as long as
and
you
he
acknowledge
sounded
it.
uncanny.
Yeah, I think you need to acknowledge it simply for one thing to give the voice actors some credit.
Yeah, they did give the voice actor credit, and they also have had another voice actor on a couple of I don't remember what the name of the show was. The show with where Joey Lawrence played Dick Clark, American Dreams. Dick produced that until he passed away. And in several episodes where he's backstage, you can hear manipulations of Clark's actual voice instead of Joey trying to imitate him.
Right.
They do not use Dick Clark's where Joey is playing him, but they did use aspects of his voice in the show,
right.
Which the Clark estate approved because he produced the show. When you have stuff that's out there like this, though, how crazy can you get?
See, that's where you come into a problem.
We're getting into a very iffy ethics situation now.
When you can do something... Now, I don't want anybody out there to think, oh, well, she's just being... I mean, we all know Kim. She's one of these, anti-technology people. I'm not. I'm just not smart enough to understand it most of the time. It's just, I get nervous around too much tech simply because I don't get it. But... I will be the first to admit that there have been some amazing things that they've done. They've used 3D printing to make prosthetic limbs for people.
Yeah.
There've been amazing advances in science and tech and all this stuff like that. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it.
We've seen the biggest thing, the thing that's got Congress upset about it. Not the Congress we mentioned in the title, but the real Congress. Is there were groups out there manipulating candidates' voices to make them appear to say things that they weren't saying in some of these ads that were showing up on Facebook and Twitter and so forth. And so that got the attention of Congress, and now they are, there's a big debate going on.
It should, because
there has to be a line where this
dishonest.
can be used and where it can't be used.
See, the thing is, when this stuff started, which you mentioned, and I agree with you, the first time I can really think of this being a thing where people went, oh, hey, wait a minute, was back when it was used by one of the cola companies. It was Diet Coke.
Diet Coke did a series of ads involving Paula Abdul and Elton John, and in those two commercials, they featured. It was not a deep fake situation. It was a magic cam situation.
Right. Because
they were using green screen to bring in footage from older movies and then coloring the picture to look like black and white for Elton John and Paula Abdul. There was Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Marilyn Monroe, a number of other celebrities. Clips these were from.
I mean, they used it in a Snickers commercial. That whole Snickers campaign where they had, hungry, eat a Snickers and all that. And they did one of them where it was supposed to be Marilyn Monroe and she was all grouchy and then she was fine. Originally it was Marilyn Monroe in The 7-Year Itch being played by Willem Dafoe in a dress. That's an image I won't drink away.
Yeah, those were
Mr.
Super Bowl
Dafoe.
ads that weren't seen that much either.
Yeah,
so.
but all of those things the big difference, and because some people will be like, well, what about those? Why don't you just like those and all that? Because everybody knew the people involved in those things weren't around anymore.
Right.
You know, everyone saw Paula Abdul dancing with Fred Astaire and went, wow, that's really cool. But nobody went, oh, this is going too far, blah, 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 because everybody knew Fred Astaire had passed on years ago. There's a question of whether or not it was tacky. You know,
those commercials were brilliantly done.
They were brilliantly done, but there are some people out there who felt like that was, you know, tacky for whatever reason, you know.
And it wasn't actually manipulating the voices or the figures. They were using them right out of the movies.
Right.
Unlike this new film, which is digitally creating a voice for Anthony Bourdain to read quotes that he never actually spoke. He only wrote.
It wasn't like Paula Abdul was dancing cheek to cheek with Fred Astaire. She was dancing next to Fred Astaire.
Yeah.
It was the two of them dancing together. And
it was like Jerry Mouse and Gene Kelly.
Yeah, it looked cool as hell. But I mean, like I said, there were some people that were like, oh, they're digging up dead celebrities to sell cola, you know, and things like that.
Well,
and
yeah, I can understand
a lot of
that.
people were like, hey, get with it and stuff. And you kind of wonder if that was where we are now, you know, with all of people just taking technology and going, well, we can do this and we can do that. And it's not a question
We have the technology.
Yeah, it's not a question
we can rebuild them.
We can do it. It's a question of why are we doing it?
You guys know where that's from. You're old.
You're old. Congrats.
Anyway, it's interesting to note, though, that, you know, some people do this as a hobby.
Yeah.
It's done just for fun. There's an artist, if I can find it again, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. There is an artist on YouTube who loves to do deep fake music videos, and it's really impressive. He's got David Bowie doing Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up, sounding like David Bowie, but wearing Rick Astley's outfits.
Right.
And looking like David Bowie. And he's done a whole series of these, and they're all done in fun, and some of the artists have said, wow, that is awesome.
I mean, technically, when you think about it, we were lucky enough quite a ways back, we were lucky enough to see Queen with Adam Lambert.
We were.
At
Lambert.
At the Fleet Center, or the New Garden, or whatever the hell they're calling it.
The TD Garden.
TD Garden, yeah. Well, they change the name every other week. You know, it's some, you know, next
it's
week. It's
been the TD Garden for close to 20 years, honey. Let's move on.
Next week it'll be the Baby Shark Pavilion. Who knows? Anyway.
No. It's not like the Pavilion. They've changed that name 6 times in 10 years.
You know, whatever.
So, yeah, because it's different sponsors like every other year.
Surprised it wasn't the Rainbow Cat Garden or something at one point. Anyway. We were lucky enough to see them perform there. And at one point during the show, Adam's singing, and then he's singing with Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
Because they used a screen, and they had a performance of the late, amazing, we're not worthy, Freddie Mercury. Mm-hmm. Nobody sat there and went, oh, wow, they brought Freddie Mercury back from the dead? We all could see what was happening. We weren't stupid.
Yeah.
You know, but...
That's fine, because that's not actually a deep fake. That's not what we're talking about.
Right. Nobody was thinking that this was something, you know, that this was some unearthed thing. It was just a way to tie the past with the present.
We had the same thing happen at the Owl City concert, where he did Alligator Sky with the rapper that was there, that he did it with the rapper on video. Mm-hmm. And the music was done live, but the rap was on tape, along with the rapper, and you could see that. I mean, that's not anything close to what they're now capable of doing.
No.
That's stuff that people have been expecting for 20, 30 years.
Right.
Ever since Wag the Dog came out, which was the first thing that brought this all to the forefront of the kind of stuff that went on. Only that was in the news industry. Mm-hmm. I think that...
well, the weird thing is how much this all leads to something that I've been saying for years. Mm-hmm. That I've brought up several times on this show. One of my movie rules being trailers always lie. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of perception. When you see some trailers for a film and then you go see the film, the things that you've seen in the film are completely different than what the trailer led you to believe was going to happen, because they used this clip here instead of here. So you find out that the character that was saying, I love you on camera, was saying I love you to somebody completely different than you thought. Mm-hmm. And that's, I don't really know if that's being a deep fake, but it's one of these kind of, hey, that's not what the trailer said.
No, that's not a deep fake either. That's just them
it's
putting
manipulation.
together.
It all boils down to manipulation.
It does. The music industry's been hit really big with it too.
Mm-hmm.
There's a series of artists on YouTube that do what if videos.
Right.
One of them is there's a couple of really good ones from. Let me find out what his name is here. I know it's here. Come on. 30 Hertz, 30 HZ has been doing Eminem fakes with from Slim Shady EP and Real Slim Shady, but with current lyrics. Like the most recent one is, "Hey kids, do you like violence? You want to see me dye my hair bright green just like Billie Eilish?"
Yeah.
Who wasn't even a glimmer in her parents' eye when that song came out.
Right.
Her parents' eye.
Yep.
And
you played that for me, and
it's uncanny. It
close.
Sounds just like Marshall.
Yeah, it's
and it's
close
like,
enough.
wow.
Yeah, it's close enough that some people who are diehard Eminem fans would probably listen to that and go, that's not him. Yeah. Because they listen to him over and over and over and over and over again, and they have since his first album dropped. But for your average person, they might think, oh, wow, he updated his song. It's that close.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
It is. There's a whole bunch of other acts doing this out there on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Some of them have done Tupac raps, which I would think the Tupac fans would go absolutely nuts over, as in, don't mess with our man. Oh. But what really caught my eye in this article that Billboard wrote a couple of weeks ago was this interesting quote. Some could argue, however, that this process is an example of tech obsessives playing God, effectively robbing artists of the one thing over which they have true ownership, their voice. Quote, everything I do is parody and is clearly labeled as artificial intelligence vocals. Counters 30 Hertz, who believes his work shouldn't be treated any differently than a Weird Al send-up.
Well, that's because this person, 30 Hertz, obviously has integrity.
Right.
They're out there saying, yeah, I'm just doing this for fun. I'm not doing this to make money. I'm not doing this to change anybody's opinion of Eminem. I'm doing this because it's a neat thing to do. And to be perfectly honest, I have no problem with that because the person's admitting that that's why they're doing it. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who don't have that kind of integrity. And the fact that that kind of technology exists out there for people who don't have that kind of integrity makes me nervous.
There is, I think this was from John Bateman, a fellow at the Cyber Policy Institute, that also was quoted to Billboard. After Peter Cushing's posthumous CGI performance in Star Wars Rogue One, it's likely we'll see more actors sign off their likenesses to film as CGI characters so they can continue doing films long after their death. It isn't unfeasible to expect artists to commit their vocals via the same kind of technology that's powering deepfake music. It would mean we could have a fairly convincing new album by Tupac or Frank Sinatra with brand new vocals generated by AI. The AI would be working in partnership with a team of songwriters to create new albums, close quote. That is just utter bullshit.
Yeah, that's enough to keep you awake at night.
That's an abomination is what that is.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
I absolutely agree with you.
There's one thing about parody. Mm-hmm. Parodies are fine. I mean, like I said, 30 Hertz is good at this stuff and it's fun. And he does label it all as artificial intelligence vocals. He's just the mix artist.
Yeah.
But when you have, I'm sorry, if you're going to sample somebody's vocals and put them through a computer and then suddenly in 2021. In 2026, we see a brand new album of music from the 2000s, standards version covers of stuff like Foo Fighters or even Eminem or Billie Eilish or a number of people, by Frank Sinatra, there's something weird going on and something wrong.
And if it gets okayed by the estate of whomever, then that's really that is the most mercantile, mercenary, money grubbing thing I think I ever would have heard of in my whole life.
I mean, we've been in this world where you can digitize for about 20 years now, and it hasn't gotten to this drastic effect. But I'm sorry, to me, maybe you guys out there, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but to me, artificially intelligently synthesizing Anthony Bourdain's voice for even just for one line in this film, which is all it is,
it's enough.
Was wrong.
Yeah.
Without permission from his family, and he didn't have it.
Right. I mean, some people will say, well, he wrote it down.
He did write it down, and there were quotes from Bourdain himself, but he never spoke them.
Right, that's the thing. If people's argument is, well, he wrote it down, that's as good as saying it. No, it isn't. You could write something down and then, like, look at it a week later, a month later, 10 minutes later, and go, well, that was dumb. I mean, most people would just chuck it, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And no, this is not cool. And I'm not trying to sound like everything old is new again, but it kind of is. Because as long as people have done whatever, written down things, taken photography of things or whatever, there's always been somebody out there who's, from going all the way back to faked pictures of the Abominable Snowman or the Loch Ness Monster or Howard Hughes's fake diaries or the diaries of Adolf Hitler that turned out to be a fraud. This is actually even worse than that because this is authorized fraud.
Yeah.
If it goes any further.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I was just thinking that what we were talking about those commercials, it goes back further than that. It goes back at least as far as Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, which was movies that they've put Steve Martin into of actual clips from movies. And even as far back as Woody Allen's What's Up, Tiger Lily, where they put all new vocals over a Japanese film that had nothing to do with what they were doing.
Right.
Which
was all parody.
It was.
Everything
and Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid was a comedy, too. It was meant to be.
And that film actually even had in the credits everybody that was used, and I think it also even had the films they were used in.
Of course, Carl Reiner was the director. He wasn't going to screw everybody.
Right.
It's just one of those things that I'm sorry, I can't. If you are a star, let's be honest here. If you're a star and you go in and have yourself digitized, this is what you got to think about yourself. I can see younger performers doing that, maybe. But even at a point, if they can digitally manipulate you, could you think about this? You go in and you turn your Leonardo DiCaprio, and you go in and they give you $100 million for everything you are and send you away, so you can't act physically again. Plop this digital. Can they literally ring him back to teenage years to play something when he started?
Not only that.
Or can they age him? Well, can they make him stay 35 forever?
Right.
Which is past where he is right now, but you know what I'm saying.
I was going to say, I thought you said young star. Sorry, Leo.
Well, I meant young star in today's universe, like say somebody, off the top of my head, I haven't seen any
like Tom Holland or somebody.
Tom Holland's a good example. He's 25. That's a great example. Somebody like Tom Holland, you got to keep him. They could take his likeness as it is and say, okay, you can go off and do other projects, but we keep this version of you and it's Spider-Man forever.
Right.
Would that work?
Think of all of
No, I don't think it would.
Also, there's a couple of other things to consider. Let's assume for a second, this is me playing devil's advocate. Stop laughing.
She's real good at this.
Shush.
Alec.
Me playing devil's advocate for a minute. If this idea actually caught on and was legal and worked and everything like that, and people went out there and decided to do this, had their likeness captured, and so we could do this, that, and the other thing, age people for a part, de-age them, whatever, and, have them, like slalom ski down the Eiffel Tower or whatever. Think about all of the people that this would put out of work. special practical effects people, practical makeup people, stuntmen.
Yeah, because basically everything you did with that person would be a CGI animated film.
Right. And also think about this.
You'd have voiceover work. That would be about it.
Yeah. Think about this. Now, I'm going to admit that this is getting into tech stuff, and this is a very... I don't know a lot about it, so, you know, I'm not the
You
brightest.
already said that. Just go ahead.
I'm not the brightest when it comes to computer stuff, but if you do this and all of this stuff is scanned into the computer and stuff like that, conceivably, doesn't that mean that somebody out there, if they wanted to, some very bad person out there, could hack into that, could steal that? You could wind up with your likeness in a porn film.
Yeah.
You know,
or in really bad Turkish films,
or in a or in a really terrible foreign film.
I mean, just think if Mark Hamill had done the digitization and the Turkish director of Turkish Star Wars got a hold of it, we'd all be in trouble.
You know, you could wind up in a film that you would be morally against. You know, you could wind up in a film about something that you completely, you know, are morally you find reprehensible or something like that.
I mean, it's all come down to we're now beyond the point of the controversy over Henry Cavill's mustache in Justice League.
For real.
Okay?
Yeah.
We're well beyond that, and it doesn't look that bad anyway. I did think it looked that bad.
I didn't think it looked that bad. I thought people were just looking for an excuse
it's
to
pretty
bitch.
good, but in any case, we're now getting well beyond that, to the point where, you know, I'm sorry, I don't... I'll be honest, the music thing bothers me for one great big reason. Mm-hmm. We do not need music that was never meant to be performed by Karen Carpenter.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they come out with, like, Karen Carpenter...
Richard would never allow that. Whether his kids will, I don't know.
If they ever come out with, like, you know, Karen Carpenter sings the hits of Amy Winehouse or something like that, I don't want to think about what that would do to your brain.
Karen singing Rehab wouldn't be that bad. That'd be kind of funky. But anyway...
Tacky is AF, but...
Well, yeah. But she never did all that stuff.
No, I realize
her problems were with other things.
You know what I mean.
But I'm saying that yeah, I wouldn't mind hearing Karen sing that stuff. I've often thought of ideas of how, like, I'd love to hear Taylor Hanson do some classic gospel stuff. Like to hear him sing "Oh Happy Day." That voice would be awesome for that song. But he's never recorded stuff like that, even though they are pretty much a Christian family. They haven't really done any gospel stuff, and that's a shame because he's awesome. But I wouidn't want to capture his voice and deep fake it. That's just nasty.
No, it's just no.
That's just wrong. In 2014. We had this discussion already. I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but we're going to take you back on a way back trip right now to the name reason why we named this. We're going back to the 2014 Boston Spring the Festival show and our review of the 2014 film The Congress by director Ari Foreman.
The movie queen at 24. All the big studios came crawling. And you slammed all the open doors, crushed all the dreams. Aaron needs me at home. But Aaron is just an excuse.
And now what? What are they offering?
We want to scan you. All of you. Your body, your face, your emotions, your laughter, your tears. We want to sample you, preserve you, and we want to own this thing called Robin Wright.
This is one of the films that we saw, the only big film we saw at the Underground Film Festival, and it is one of the most hard-to-describe films I've ever seen. A hybrid live-action animated film that was made its world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival last summer, and it will be coming to theaters near you later this summer and also on video on demand. Robin Wright, Harvey Keitel, the voice of John Hamm, Cody Smith-McPhee, and a host of other peoples. Give us the rundown on Ari Foreman's The Congress.
Seriously?
What?
How?
Well, it's divided into two halves.
Well, okay, all right.
Give us the rundown of the first half of The Congress, then.
Okay. Robin Wright is playing Robin Wright. Now, right now, when we start something like this, I'm like, oh, F, here we go. She's playing an actress who has a reputation for being...
really persnickety after The Princess Bride.
Yeah.
She's playing herself, but
a distorted...
Up,
a distorted herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she's become such a diva that nobody wants to hire her. And let's face it, it's difficult enough for older women to get decent roles in Hollywood. Throw into that a diva complex, and you've got a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
She agrees to sell the movie rights for her image to be digitized to, excuse me, to Miramount Studios. Gee, I wonder what that's supposed to be.
No idea.
In exchange for two things. An enormous amount of money, and she has to promise that she will never act again anywhere. Not even like dinner theater in Poughkeepsie.
Right.
You know, it's... So
this is the latest rage. All the actors and actresses are doing it.
Yep. So after her body is digitally scanned, the studio will be able to take the imagery and use it in the movie and, you know, have her be whomever they want.
The reason she decides to do this is because her son Aaron, who is a teenager, is suffering from a degenerative disease which is costing him both his eyesight and his hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And he, with the last name Wright, is determined to prove that he is the descendant of the Wright brothers, always flying kites and designing airplanes and everything else. And it's her deep love for him and her daughter Sarah that makes her decide to finally do this.
Okay. 20 years after making this decision, she attends the Futurological Congress, which is showcasing the new technology by Miramount that allows people to change themselves into animated avatars. In this state, they can become their favorite film star. They can become any religious icon they choose.
They can become anything.
Excuse me. They can become anything they want. And they want her to sell her image to them so that they want to use her image.
They want to renew the contract because most contracts have been lifetime, but she insisted on a 20-year limit for hers.
Right. So that they can transform, so people will be able to buy the opportunity to sniff these little ampules like poppers, not that I would know what a popper is, and transform themselves into her. This doesn't go well. Nothing beyond this point in the film goes well. With
Robin Wright as Robin Wright, Paul Giamatti in a cameo as Dr. Barker, Danny Houston in his usual scummy role as Jeff, the head of Miramount Studios.
Yeah, Danny, rescue a kitten for once, man. Seriously.
Harvey Keitel as her manager/agent Al, Cody Smith-McPhee as her son Aaron, and Sammy Gale as her daughter Sarah, plus John Hamm later in the animated portion of the film as the voice of Dylan Trulanier, the person who has been doing all of the animated Robin Wrights for 20 years.
Yep.
What did you think?
This is what I wrote in my little blue notebook.
Oh, God.
Now, I take my little blue notebook when we go to movies, and I put down my thoughts.
It's like her little black backpack.
Yeah, I'll kick your ass if you try and take it from me. This is what I wrote in my little blue notebook immediately after seeing this movie. If this is the future, the aliens can't get here fast enough. Oh my frog, did this movie make me want to kill myself. Not because it's a bad movie. It isn't a bad movie. But it is so unbelievably depressing.
It's very dark.
It's very dark. It is an interesting concept, but the potential behind it is terrifying. Seriously,
and we're already getting there with some video games. I mean, you look at it; it's like they're getting
this movie
so
made me
real.
This movie made me want to walk out of the brattle and hurl myself under a bus. I mean, it was just like, please, if this is the future, shoot me. Shoot me now and get it over with, because I can't live like this. I don't want to live in a world like this.
Right.
For those of you who thought The Matrix was scary, this makes The Matrix look like Fun Time with Barney. You know, Serious. It's beautifully done. It is beautifully done. It's based on the Futurological Congress by Stanislaw Lem. I'd like to get that out
very,
there.
Very, much. But if you're familiar with the book, you're not going to recognize the book in the movie, other than
probably
the general
not.
premise. No. The change point, which happens about one third of the way through the film. Robin is driving up. She meets this guy, the guard,
security guard
at the gate, and then heads off the road, sniffs her thing, turns into this animated character, and ends up in the animation in this segment of the film. Again, I'm going to bring up an acid trip. This would make somebody on an acid trip go blind. It's so
make
vivid.
them want to rip their eyes out of their head.
Incredibly vivid and wonderfully animated. The animation is so detailed and so beautiful. I'm sorry, I stepped all over what you were saying.
No, you didn't. No,
okay.
Keep going.
This movie is so depressing and so dark, and yet it is riveting in places that I don't expect it to be. My biggest complaint about this film is that it's overlong. It runs 2 hours and 10 minutes. It could have been cut to 95, 100 minutes by getting rid of some of the extraneous stories in the animated portion, which is it's beautiful to look at, but I was liking the live-action stuff much better than the animated stuff because it let us see into Robin Wright, quote-unquote, life, her devotion to her kids, her love for her agent, who had been with her for years. And it was Michael Stahl-David is also in the movie as a lawyer that's part of that. I forgot about that, and it's not listed here. But I was like, yay, we love him. He's a Rising Star alumni. The whole thing there was more interesting to me than the animated portion. The animated portion was this big. It's all freaking conspiracy theories everywhere. You think Alex Jones has got conspiracy theories? You haven't seen the Congress. There's like 50 of them running parallel and bisecting each other in the animated portion of the film. It does fade back and forth between live action and animated at the end also.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's way overlong. Some people were actually going, "When is this getting over?" when we were seeing it. But the animation is unbelievably beautiful to look at, and while the storyline meanders a little bit in that segment,
this movie made me want to eat an entire pound of chocolate. I mean, even if I didn't have diabetes, and I know that would be dangerous for me. Type 2 diabetes, but I'm serious. This movie made me want to go to the nearest CVS, get one of those enormous bars of Hershey's chocolate, and eat the whole effing thing all at once.
It's a good thing we didn't see this at the Coolidge then, isn't it, instead of the Brattle?
Why?
Because there's a CVS right there and a Walgreens right there, and you have to walk a ways to get to one up there.
Would have been bodily dragging me away. No, Tim, no.
Yeah. So overall, what did you think?
I give it a B-.
Seriously?
Yep.
Oh my God, what is wrong with you?
Okay. See, this is when you take everybody's entitled to their own opinion part. Here's the open window. Whee!
I'm sorry.
It's too depressing.
But, oh God.
If you go into this movie with mental issues, you're going to come out and you're going to be worse.
That.
No.
You don't want to do that.
If you have triggers about, like, depression triggers and stuff like that,
for
the love of Larry, don't go to this movie. Excuse me.
I thought this movie was depressing and dark, but ultimately the experience of seeing it was amazing. The animation in itself is beautiful to look at. It's so meticulously done. It took, I think, 2 years to do it all. And I
think it took longer than that.
Maybe. I mean, this is from, as I said, director...
They actually began working on the movie in 2008.
Ari Folman, who was the director of Waltz with Bashir. This is an amazing piece of work. I mean, particularly the animation stuff. The story is a bit depressing, and it is overlong. But ultimately, I can't wait to see it again. I think it's just to look at it. It was unbelievably beautiful. I give the Congress an A-. That movie was insane. I mean, it's a great movie up to a point. It's a little long, but it is a great movie. Got great reviews. You can catch the Congress on Hulu or Fandor with your subscription, or on, is it Tubi or Tubi? Tubi TV with commercials.
I pronounce it Tubi because it's television.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
what
like
I'm thinking. It's supposed to be Tubi. They should have Tubey or EI or whatever, because I always think Tubby when I see it. It's available with commercials for free on Tubi. And it has a great cast, like we said. Robin Wright, Cody Smith-McPhee, the animated version of John Hamm, and so on and so forth. This movie brings up a lot of questions on this, and if you've never seen it, of course, it is based on the book, The Futurological Congress, which was written in the 70s, I believe, or maybe even the late 60s.
I think it was the late 60s, but I'm not certain.
It really is something that we need to start thinking about.
Yeah.
Because, with all due respect, we all know how the entertainment industry is when it comes to making money.
Yep.
And limits should be thought about and voluntarily brought up, but if not, then we need to think about legally blocking certain things.
You never really thought that the idea...
And I hate to say that because I'm not normally one of those people.
You never really thought that the idea of somebody's lifespan would be something that you would need to think about in this respect.
Yeah.
Because you think,
God, yeah.
well, they're dead. Why bother? Why bother with this? But apparently now, I mean, if you think about it, and I realize some people might be like, you're being extremely melodramatic, Kim. Surprise.
I don't think so.
This is grave robbing. This is, I mean, there's really no other way to put it. It's the entertainment equivalent of grave robbing.
Do you let's put it this in the hands of the that class of people that need to don't have any companionship and do other things to make sure they get off. Do you really want to go and do what you need to do to something that doesn't really exist? I mean, I know some of them probably do to anime right now, but at least there's real voices behind that. Anyway, deep fakes are synthetic media in which a person in an existing image or video is replaced with someone else's likeness, and that is now going beyond that. That's the Wikipedia definition. It's time to really think about where we're going.
If you're doing this...
After this, I mean, I'm sorry. I wasn't the biggest Anthony Bourdain fan. I thought he was kind of obnoxious, but I did enjoy the last show he did, The Layover. That was a great show. We watched it after he passed away, and it was really a great show. And knowing the way he thought, the way his people talked about him, and the way his thought processes, he would have put his foot down on this and said, no effing way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want people to get...
Shame on you, Morgan.
I don't want people to get the idea, especially somebody like the gentleman that does the M&M stuff. If you're doing this for fun, if you're doing it just because I just want to try something, or if you're doing it genuinely because you think that, Elvis Presley would have done a kick-ass version of Sweet Child of Mine or whatever, if you're doing it for that...
Give them ideas.
If you're doing it for that reason... That's fine.
Yeah,
that's actually you being creative.
Let's make this clear. We don't want to stifle creativity.
No.
We don't want to stifle creativity.
Absolutely not.
These deepfakes on YouTube from 30 Hertz and these ilks and as art and a few other things.
Yeah.
They're terrific, and they're all labeled, and they're all, they tell you up front. What we are opposed to is using this for profit.
Yeah, if you're doing this to make money, or you want to use this to make money, F you.
It's just not right. I'm sorry. I don't normally like being moralistic, especially on stuff like this, because it's not
I don't
me.
like being moralistic because I don't have any, but I just...
No, you obviously do, because you agree with this. I think that the director here, Morgan Neville, is that the right one? Should really think about the statement. Yeah, Morgan Neville. I think that quip made it seem to me like you didn't care about the possible aspects of this. Yeah. And knowing what a fantastic job you did with the Fred Rogers documentary, it really disappoints me, dude, that you did not think about this before you just blew it off with a flip comment. That's just how I feel.
Me too.
Okay, before we get on out of here, Subject Cinema has a schedule again. Finally getting back into the groove. Next Sunday, July 25th, it will be Operation Clover, American Kaiju. Mm-hmm. This was Kim's idea, so it's all on at your feet, honey. You better be ready for it.
I'll be ready.
August 1st, we will be dealing with Cheesecake with a Soggy Bottom, the worst of the 80s action flicks. And we're talking like the direct-to-video dregs as well as the ones that actually got to theaters.
Yep.
Like Miami Connection, or that was the 90s, actually.
Yeah.
And a few other things. On August 8th, this is really some Inception shit. Movies inside of movies. Mm-hmm. These are literally movies that are inside of movies. We're that's that whole...
Looking at a film inside
which we've
a
never
film,
looked at
or
before,
making
surprisingly.
A film inside a film.
Yeah.
It's going to get real meta.
We're going to do our first director's chair in about 10 years on August 15th with Billy Wilder, who has directed some of the greatest films of all time, including some of our favorites, including Double Indemnity and Some Like It Hot, and a number of other things. Once a month, we're going to break from the movies but we're still going to do something entertainment-oriented. And on August 22nd, we are going to bring you Mr. Rodney, Mr. Delicious, and you when ad campaigns fail. Mr. Delicious says you need to be here for that. Dickety-dee. At August 29th, Hank Green, she's going to forever hate you for bringing that to my attention.
Pretty much.
August 29th, we're also going to do a little bit of an in-depth study into one of the biggest scandals over the past 30 years in Hollywood. From Butterfly to Burke, the scandals of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. What led to the utter implosion of the Golden Globes, and we will talk to you about that on August 29th. Labor Day weekend is going to be a very special weekend. It will be our official hard relaunch of Subject Cinema after a summer of soft stuff. And hopefully by that point, we'll have all the new equipment in place, new studio stuff ready. And we'll be doing something special, and we'll tell you more about it when we get closer to it. But it will be Labor Day, either Sunday or Monday, September 5th and 6th. It will not be the Rising Stars honors. We are postponing those again until next year, so we have time to pull together, and then we'll have 3 years of stars to pick from. So that'll be a lot of fun. You can get in touch with us very easy by dropping us a line at subjectcinema@PNRNetworks.com. You can follow Kim on Twitter at PlatinumRoseL. I am at eCinemaOne and TKR online for my music stuff on the Kirkham Report. Kim has her own podcast called Ring Around the Rosie, which she is now back doing, all about the wonderful, crazy world of professional wrestling. Last week, she talked all about some crazy stuff.
Yeah, last week I got a little bit nuts. I will admit, this is not a show that is safe
This is not safe for work show, just like all her other shows.
This is swearing McSwearington stuff for the most part.
My God, you got the biggest effing potty mouth I've ever effing seen. I mean, really, honestly, F this, F that, every 5 effing seconds out of your mouth.
Well, shit, you don't need to be that nasty about it.
Naughty.
Anyway. I also have another YouTube channel. It's called Platinum Rose Roleplay, where I do some. I am a voice actress, and I'm sending that stuff out there into the interwebs. If anybody wants to give it a listen,
if you want to talk to her about maybe doing something, ideas for her to do, drop her a line at platinumroselle@yahoo.com.
Yes, but keep it clean. I am a lady.
Yeah, and we'll be doing more and more with that stuff as well. Yeah. We do have a lot of other things going on that we'll be talking about in the next 6 to 8 weeks, and they'll be showing up on the websites also. So please check regularly, eCinemaOne.com and eCinemaBoston.com. And my music site, thekirkhamreport.com, where we talk a lot about my stuff for the vinyl community on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel over there, and I hope you'll come watch it. I know we have Adam Stabelli over there. Hi, Adam. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sticking with us. And I hope other people will check us out and subscribe over there. In short, I think it's going to be a fun month over the next few weeks. Yeah. And what do you have in mind for American Kaiju?
Well,
other than Cloverfield, because that's the only thing I can think of. So,
well, Kaiju, the Japanese word for monster, specifically giant monster. American films really jumped on this bandwagon, and I know some people are going to be like, "Oh, great, it's going to be the Attack of the 50-foot whatever."
Okay,
but they're not all of them. I mean, when you look at one of the original kaiju films, I mean, you would definitely have to include King Kong, the original version of Kong.
Yeah.
is a kaiju.
We'll get to it next week, and we hope that you'll be here
Yeah.
for it, because we need you. Don't forget to spread the word. Check us out. Subscribe to us over at Popcorn and Roses on Facebook, and keep in touch with Twitter. Spread our tweets. Retweet everything. Don't forget to subscribe and all that good stuff. And now, let's get on out of here. For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
TTFN.
Bye now.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema is copyright 2020 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
Blueberry. This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com. 15 years. Blowing the doors off the competition. Podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRNetworks.com.